That last senator there, that's Tom Tillis in North Carolina. He's up for re-election in a swing state. He's also one of 7 Republican senators who are now backing a bipartisan bill that would require Congress to approve President Trump's tariffs on trading partners. Under that bill, sponsored by Republican Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa and Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington, any tariffs imposed by the president would expire after 60 days unless Congress voted to approve them. And joining me now is Senator Maria Cantwell. She's Democrat of Washington. She's a member of the Senate Finance Committee. Senator, it's good to have you on. First, will you just explain what this legislation would do?
Well, we're saying that this issue that is constitutionally given to Congress is an issue that Congress needs to reassert itself. The fact that a president can throw an economy, not just ours, but a global economy, into such havoc without really consulting or talking to Congress, who really were the agent of our constituents, and do all of that without any kind of input is just wrong. So we're saying that Congress should pass this legislation, reassert our control over this trade policy, and require the president to get approval for these actions.
When this bill came out, again, co-sponsored with Chuck Grassley, has 7 Republicans on it, which is, that is impressive math given where the country is, right? That's a shockingly high degree of bipartisan consensus given how the math has been working normally. The White House immediately issued a veto threat that the bill would severely constrain the tariff powers. It would eliminate Trump's ability to have leverage over foreign countries. Ergo, you would need to override that veto. The other avenue, as I understand it, is they are essentially abusing a 1970s statute not designed for them to do this, in which the president declares an emergency and pursuant to that emergency power is given this leverage to unilaterally set these tariffs. And my understanding is there are efforts afoot in both houses to essentially push a resolution that would revoke that emergency declaration. Do I have that right?
Yes, there's a lot of effort now because, as you see, 401k programs have been impacted in the stock market, and there's a lot of Americans that don't have pensions anymore and have 401k plans. You see the businesses like the retailers and consumer electronics organizations and apparel companies all coming and saying, please, please do something about this. We are still in a period of inflation, and making things more expensive for the consumer is a really, really bad idea. So our colleagues now are joining discussions about how to reassert our role in this. So the same legislation that Senator Grassley and I introduced was introduced in the House of Representatives with a number of Democrat and Republican co-sponsors. And this is after the president threatened his veto. So I think what my colleagues who are listening to their constituents are going to do are going to look for the legislative path to respond to their constituents and say, yes, I'm going to try to hold down these costs on you.
One of the things I've watched develop, and I'm curious to hear if you feel this way, is watching this process of denial play out. Because I think a lot of folks on Wall Street, a lot of Republicans, a lot of Republican office holders thought this is all a bluff to create leverage. What he really wants to do is do a bunch of deals. But my understanding of listening to the president is that he doesn't want the deals. He wants the tariffs. The tariffs are the point. If he does the deal and the tariffs go away, he doesn't get the income, which he can then put towards his big tax cuts for the rich. And he doesn't get this neo-mercantilist vision of the glory years of McKinley. And I wonder if your colleagues are coming to understand that, he is serious about this.
Well, I think you did a good rendition in your opening of his commitment over a campaign trail to this. And I think while people probably thought that sounded good on a campaign trail, even though people may not have understood exactly what the tariff meant, which you're also showing in your segment, that now all of a sudden it's real in that plummeting of the market, in those small businesses, Main Street Alliance and others saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up paying this because I'm a small business. I'm not going to be able to get out of this. And now they're calling their members of Congress saying, you have to do something to fix this. And our colleagues now know, as you saw from the Senate Finance Committee today, as we questioned the trade ambassador, that the plan is not clear. The outcome that the president seeks is not clear. And so I do think that they caught people off guard, the size and the scope. And, a lot's been made of different countries. Why would you even, try to retaliate on them? It's all been now seeping into our colleagues. And I think it's a really bad place to be. You don't want to have anybody between you and your constituents. You want to listen to what they say. And they're giving a very clear signal right now. They're very concerned in an inflationary time that this is just going to raise costs. And they are not even sure what the end result strategy means. And you talked about the manufacturing. Biden administration did grow 700,000 manufacturing jobs over what we lost during COVID. But that's on next generation innovation. That's on next generation energy. That's on, bringing the semiconductor supply chain back. It's about innovation and being the leader in the next set of manufacturing jobs, not trying to somehow think you're going to tariff semiconductors back into the United States.
Yeah, and we should note that they're blocking some of the federal expenditures for some of that investment in clean tech in hopes of bringing back a lot of sock factories. As far as I can tell, Senator Maria Cantwell, thank you very much.
Thank you.